everyone. Welcome to Mountaineer Farm Talk. It's August 27th, and today we're going to be talking about beef quality assurance update with myself and John Johnson from Jackson County. Maybe I didn't introduce myself. My name is J.J. Baird, and I'm from Wood County. And also we have, of course, John David Johnson. What's up today, J.D.?
Oh, not too much. Just clicking along here like every Friday, 10 o'clock, getting on with good co-workers, talking a little bit about BQA today. Kind of excited about it because since me and you are kind of, helping heading this up, spearheading in our area, and we've had good success and responses from this topic. So I'm looking forward for the conversation here.
Good. Also, we have Evan Wilson with us. Evan, how are you today?
Oh, good. I'm down here in Wayne County today. We're still unpacking my new Cabell County office out there, the old Milton High School building. So that's where we've moved here in the last week.
Yeah, and last but not least, we have Brandy Brabham from Roane County. What's up, Brandy?
Oh, nothing. Just enjoying a little coffee and enjoying hearing about BQA. I can't wait. I have beef cattle myself, so I'm sure there's lots of good information y'all are going to share and can help the producers in my county for sure. So looking forward to today's conversation.
Good, great. I wanted to plug today. We're going to be talking about some of the focusing on for 2021 vaccinations, but not just really. We might focus on handling and storage of vaccinations, but of course we'll always be open to questions on anything that has to do with vaccinations. Low stress handling, especially now we're within the next 2-3 weeks, there's going to be a lot of calves that will be weaned out across the Mountain State, and we're wanting to we'll be bringing those in either to be moving them on through some of our calf pools. They'll be sold at some of the special calf sales, the graded feeder calf sales across West Virginia. And a new thing that's come up in the last few years, the BQA transportation. So if you're interested in livestock nutrition and animal health, forages, pastures, of course, beef cattle, farm management, crop production, gardening or horticulture, or any topic involved with agriculture and farming, join us every Friday at 10 a.m. for Mountaineer Farm Talk. We will learn, share, laugh, and enjoy a cup of cowboy coffee or herbal tea. We encourage audience participation, so have your questions ready. Real quick, JD, before we get started, I just want to give everyone an update. Of course, today we're talking about beef quality assurance. Friday, September 3rd, we're going to have Dr. Kevin Schaefer. Of course, he is our livestock specialist for WVU Extension. He'll be talking about feeder calf marketing strategies. Perfect time for that. He'll be talking about some of the calf pools, the graded feeder calf sales, and ways to add value to our feeder calves. September 10th, Agriculture Programs Update. We'll be having Norm Bailey. He's the Chief of Staff for the West Virginia Department of Agriculture. And Norm will be updating us on a lot of what's going on with the Department of Ag. Friday, September 17th, we're going to have Brad Bergeford. He is the Ohio State Extension Educator and Horticulture Specialist, and he's going to be talking about some specialty crops. Of course, he does a lot of research into pumpkins, strawberries, hops, all kinds of specialty crops. We'll be looking forward to talking to Brad. And then finally, Friday, September 24th, Dr. Bud Mayfield, research entomologist with U.S. Forestry. We're talking about the hemlock woolly adelgid. So we've got those speakers and topics lined up for the month of September, and we hope that everyone can join us. So JD, let's hit right into the beef quality assurance, especially with we're coming on into weaning our calves now. Maybe we should start with some of our our handling.
Well, let's kind of start off just kind of a general overview for the producers that hasn't really got to that point yet and looked at the BQA. BQA started back in 1987. It is producer led and producer run. It started out looking at antibiotic residues and injection sites in cattle. It's kind of the first thing that kind of stemmed this program back in 87. And, it covers a lot of different topics. Just looking at the handbook here, the tabs on there: animal behavior and handling, biosecurity, herd health, transport, record keeping, nutrition, environmental control points, working safely, and emergency action plans are the tabs on the trainer's manual. But of course, there's a lot of topics within that, and we're kind of looking more at the herd health side today, specifically with BQA. But yes, herd health is very important. It can make you or break you, and the whole program is to improve the food quality aspect of the industry, to improve the care and management of your herd, avoid those drug residues that's going to go over into the slaughterhouse, and to increase your profits, and
Yeah, JD,
and that's kind of the whole aspect of this, what we're looking at today.
I just want to interject, or I was going to say I want to inject, but injection site lesions was probably one of the big reasons why they came up with this movement for beef quality assurance. And they really made, I mean, I think it's a fact and a big positive for this program, because they've made so much impact and progress as far as the reduction of injection site lesions since this program started back in the 80s. So it definitely, we've proven that it works. And, there's always room for improvement with herd health and with bruising and such during transportation. But as far as the injection site lesions, we've really come a long way since this program has started. So definitely this program works, and we want to try to implement some more of this, get the word out, education, implement some of these strategies. What do you want to just start in with the vaccinations first?
Yeah, let's talk about vaccination and just kind of back you up with some numbers here on the injection sites. Back in 1988, we were up to around 30% of the beef cattle having injection damage sites. And, it's decreased over the years to 2017 was the last big audit they had. And I mean, they're down to about, 8 to 7% from 30 back in the 1998. Where it was at 30% in 1998, and it was higher back in the 80s as well. So we have seen a dramatic just decrease. But vaccinations, yes, let's talk about vaccinations. We're weaning our calves this time of year. We're getting them all up. Calf pools are starting to precondition. And one of the biggest things in cattle, especially with the preconditioning, is the vaccinations. And we're starting to do that now. And if your vaccinations are not vital or up to date, you can have some problems, because they're going to be inefficient in keeping these disorders that we're trying to treat and diseases out of our herds. So we want to make sure we have good, viable vaccinations. And that is a really, really big part of this, because a lot of people do not store their vaccinations properly. And we'll start with storage, because if you give a vaccine that has been, not stored properly, the efficiency of that vaccine is going to be, not up to par there.
Yeah, so, JD, let's maybe hit some of that. Let's say that I'm, instead of I let a lot of people order their stuff, or maybe get it from the vet or through something like PBS Livestock. Say I go to town. While I'm in town, I stop at the farm store, or maybe Rural King or somewhere, and I get my vaccine, and I put it in a little brown paper bag and set it up in the pickup, and then it takes me. Of course, then I decide I go through the drive-through, and then I stop at the bank and somewhere else, and about 45 minutes later, I get home. Is that a good way to haul my vaccines home, especially if I spend a lot of money?
Definitely not. A lot of times if you go to the vet, they're going to give you a little styrofoam cooler with an ice pack in it. Okay. It's keeping it out of direct sunlight. Yeah, that brown paper bag probably prevents a lot of sunlight from coming in, but it's not keeping it cool. So you need to keep it, that little cooler, little ice pack, and even the packages with bubble wrap. putting an ice pack in it, and if you only have one or two little things to slide in there, that's I think R13 rated for insulation. There's little bubble packets. So, you know, that would help keep it cool, keep it out of direct sunlight. So we want to go ahead and get these in the cooler as quick as possible, because you want to store these vaccines between 35 to 45 degrees Fahrenheit. And that is a big problem with some of these, you know, storage areas. You need to keep a thermometer in there. So you want to buy your vaccine and get it to that controlled environment as quickly as possible for storage. Okay. Now, you don't have to run every red light in town getting home. Okay. That's not what I mean.
What you have a cooler for?
Yeah, use common sense. Common sense will take care of a lot of things. And you know, as the world turns, you know, common sense spins away, I think, in today's
Yeah, JD,
world.
I think you really hit a good point there that I want to reiterate. They probably at least 10 years ago, they did I think it was University of Arkansas, but they did a study. They put thermometers and recorded temperatures in a lot of these refrigerators. And there was I can't remember exact details, but it was a high percentage of the refrigerators were not working right. And you know,
76%.
76%. So, and we're talking even the coolers at farm stores, coolers. And of course, you know, at the farm, you're like, well, we've got the refrigerator we keep in the barn. That's where we have, if we have any vaccine left over, or if we're going to vaccinate in a couple of days, I get it, you know, in a cooler, and then I put it in there. But I think that research project also showed that even if you store that medication or vaccines in the do not store it in the door part that opens, because it'll actually be a little bit warmer in that. So I think that's a big thing with the refrigerators, as far as keeping a thermometer in there. And then if you have to, you've got to have somewhere where you have heat during the wintertime for these refrigerators. You know, these vaccines are expensive. And make sure that, and I was going to say something else, and I'm sure that you'll agree with a lot of times, if even if you order it from PBS or from the vet or get it at a store, you need to immediately read the expiration date on these vaccines, and on any vaccine, and even on some of your antibiotics and other medications, because, you know, I've picked up blackleg or a 7-way vaccine before, and then after I got it home, realized that it was already outdated, that I got from, I can't remember, one of the farm stores. So those, and you know, and once those are outdated, they need to be thrown out.
I had that happen too, JJ. So it's really important when you're in the feed store, the supply store, that you look at those things, because a lot of times, I don't think they do it on purpose. It just, things do get expired and they need to be removed, and sometimes it doesn't always happen.
And they're stamped right there on the bottom of the package, right there.
The other
It gives
way.
you the month, the day of the month, and the year right there. So, and also right beside that, usually is stamped the series number and the lot number. And kind of keep that in mind. I like to write those numbers down when I look at that expiration date, because for some reason, if that vaccine is not working right or invalid, and you have an outbreak and you can contact the supplier, sometimes that's the first thing they're going to ask you for: series, lot number, expiration date. And you have that data right there for them.
That's the manufacturer, right? One thing, you will have some documents that make it easier for producers to keep records on things like that, where they can actually record all that information when they give the shots and the date they give the shots, so they have something to back themselves up for the manufacturers if that ever does become an issue. I think that's pretty helpful, right?
Yes, definitely, to have that written down, because a lot of producers, well, you know, sometime second week of that month, I think, you know, they're not going to want to hear that. They're going to say, here's the date, here's the lot number, series.
Right.
And if you have your ducks in a row, they're going to take you very seriously, and they're going to help you then. So
in the because we're talking about the coolers, maybe we should, when you are at shoot side, you need to have that cooler with a couple good ice packs in there, and keep that, try to keep that at that cooler temperature, because a lot of times it takes longer to run all the animals to the chute than what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can't remember which training we talked about this, JD, but the lady from I don't know, it was from Pfizer, but she was talking about the um, timing on the once you mix up your no, your vaccines. You know, I'm talking about the ones that you mix together. It's got the two different, especially the. Oh, I'm trying to think here. Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on mute.
Are you talking
Oh,
about the modified lives? Is that
yeah,
what
the
you're talking
modified
about?
live. When you
The
mix those
modified
up,
lives, you have a powder and a liquid,
yeah,
and you mix them together, and you usually want to use that preferably within an hour.
yeah,
After an hour, it starts to decline, but you never want to save that over to the next day or late that evening because it's losing effectiveness as the time once you mix it and it starts to lose effectiveness. And do not mix it and do this right here because what that's going to do is I did not mute my phone and I apologize. What that's going to do is it's going to start uh, it can start to produce some toxins naturally in there from being damaged. So just a roll, gentle roll, just back and forth, rock it back and forth gently after you mix it. Do not shake it like that. Okay. That will, help with some of the reactions that the cattle can have after that shot as well.
yeah. Because well, I think that this lady was talking about if you mix that up and then it sets in the cooler, but then something else happened, especially when we're wanting to get our day started. So we go ahead and mix that up in the morning and then don't get started till, 2 or 3 hours later. And then another thing that she wanted to stress that once you've mixed those modified lives, I mean, that's it. So if you buy enough to do 10 head, compared to say if you buy a 50 dose bottle and then you don't have as many animals, I mean, you have to really watch your pocketbook on those because some of those are modified lives are really expensive. So if you don't have that, or maybe just mix up a 10 dose and if you get behind, you won't waste as much vaccine if you end up having to throw that out. But definitely, yeah, once you use those, and I think a lot of our vaccines that, not all of them, but a lot of them, once we've, within that 24-hour period, you're pretty well done. Am I correct?
Yeah, I wouldn't never keep anything over 10 hours. And really, I'm real hesitant I like to be able to use them within that hour. And especially 2.5, 3 hours is pushing it, I think, in my opinion. So we want to get those out and distribute as quick as we can. And, you always want to have a puller needle, one that goes into the top of the vaccine after you mix up, and it's not the one being stuck into the animal. I call it a puller needle because you're just using it to pull vaccine into the syringe. Then you disconnect it and connect another needle that's going into the animal. So that way it's not contaminating your vaccine after every stick, especially with things we have going on like some anaplasmosis, which is transferred through needle sticks, and any mechanical clipping or even ear notching, ear tagging, anything that punctures the skin can transfer anaplasmosis. So keeping that fresh needle. The calves, some people use a needle on 10 calves and then trade. Some use clean needles on everything. Cows are more susceptible to problems with anaplasmosis. They cannot reproduce the blood cells as quickly as the calves can. The calves can usually come out of it fine, but then they're a carrier. The cows, if they're over 3 years old, have a higher chance of death with anaplasmosis. So usually the first sign you see is a dead cow laying out in your pasture, then you find another one, and then you have a problem. So let's try to avoid that through what we're doing here by giving these cows clean needles.
All right. Well, I think that the BQA manual recommends changing needles every 10 animals. But some of our, especially like you were saying, if you have some disease issues or problems that you're already aware of, or maybe in your area, or a lot of our seed stock producers, especially if they're moving animals, maybe through sales across the country or even internationally. Definitely, I think it's a good idea to one needle per animal. Am I wrong here, JD?
No, you're absolutely right, especially in our part of the country. Now down south, everything has anaplasmosis, and it gets it when it's young. So, that animal's already system is caught up with it. So it's not as big a problem down in the southeast that it is up here. But we have a lot of herds that are being affected up here because we're negative, and then you get fresh anaplasmosis disease coming into these negative herds that's never been exposed. They're older than 3 years, and that's where we're running into the big problem. So, if we can keep these out of our herds and not have to worry with them, that's the best thing that we can do. And I think where we're at in West Virginia, this far north, I change needles, especially with cows. I change a needle every stick. Now calves, I might do the 10 because they're fixing to leave the farm and I'm weaning at that point. So they're going to be away from those cows. So at that point, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I think if you want to change a needle every stick, go ahead. I mean, I don't think that you're hurting anything.
JD, but especially within the last 2 years, with the onset of this COVID-19 pandemic, we've I think the public in general has questioned or learned a lot about vaccinations and immunity. Let's dig in a little bit further with talking about stress and handling and vaccinations. I know that there's some research out there, and I think that it would be definitely. I know that Dr. Matlick has talked about this, about doing your weaning and your vaccinations at a different time. As far as, if we're saying that you bring animals in and of course they're highly stressed, maybe at this time of year it might be in the mid 80s, the low 90s, high humidity, the animals are hot, they're under stress, and then you're going to bring them through there and give them a vaccine. And I think some of the research has showed that you're not going to have a lot of high success rate with that, just because of all the stress that the animals go through. And maybe we should bring those animals in, give them a few days to decrease some of those stress levels, get used to drinking and eating in their new facility. What are some of your thoughts on that, and how do we get that to try to get that recommendation out there to be implemented by some of our farmers?
I think that is a great recommendation, JJ. Because the stress for weaning is usually the highest stress point in that calf's life. Okay. And once you get all those hormones pumping, we're not going to get into the specific hormones at this point, but, once you get all that pumping through their veins, stress, their immune system is going to be going down. So that's going to make the vaccine a little bit less efficient at that point. Now, if you want to give at weaning a nasal, like a Enforce or something like that, it's nasal application. It's pretty much crosses over the blood-brain barrier, is active immediately. Now that might be something you can do to help lower your problems there till you vaccinate. But yeah, I think giving them a little time to settle down, and even there is some other where you can vaccinate a little early. What I'll do, in instance, it depends on the grass too. When I wean, everything depends on the amount of forage that I have on my farm, and that drives a lot of the decisions I make. And I may do one thing differently the next year than I do this year because of the forage, that I have accessible to me. I'll throw in a nose clip, a weaning nose ring. That way the calf can stay on the side of the mother but not be able to nurse. So, if you wanted to vaccinate, throw in a ring out there with his mother, I think you're okay. But I'd wait about 3-4 weeks, or right before a week or so before you do your booster to take those cattle away from that calf. That way, it's settled back down before you give your second shot as well.
Yeah, I definitely, these vaccination, the health of these feeder calves that we're marketing is crucial, because a lot of these animals are going to end up commingled with animals from, if they stay local, maybe a few farms, but if they move out west of some of the feedlots, they may be commingled with animals from several farms from areas made that their immune system's not used to some of those diseases that are going to hit them. And I know that as far as profit wise, for making money, an animal that goes on feed and does not have to go to the sick pen and be treated are most likely going to make money. But that's the big thing with these calves, is keeping them healthy during that stress period, and then making sure that because we're spending all this time, investing this time and this money with vaccines, and then we want to make sure that they work, that these animals are protective, they build up their immune system. And I like that you were talking a little bit about some of the low stress weaning. Are there some other strategies maybe that some of our producers can use to minimize stress the time that we wean these calves before we send them off to be marketed?
Well, you know as well as I do that, the most common low stress practice is fence line weaning. Getting you have to have a good fence. Now, I've somewhat pulled this off in some farms, but other farms you can't. Depends on your setup there on each farm. But if you have a good fencing system that you can move the cows on one side, the calves on the other, they can still have contact with each other through the fence. That's going to lower stress, because mommy's still there, but they can't get to her to nurse. So, that is a definitely low stress. Of course, the worst scenario that we see a lot is weaning the calves on the trailer. And that's where you run into those sick pens, JJ, you was just talking about, because, they're called they're what I call naive cattle. And a lot of your graders will call them naive cattle, because they've been very isolated. They haven't been around any disorder, diseases. They haven't been vaccinated. Then you throw them out in a petri dish feedlot with everything, and they're going to get sick, and they're already stressed. So they're going to come down with something. You're setting up for failure there. But if we can low stress wean these cattle, nose clips, fence line feeding, or fence line weeding, excuse me, I think we can really have an upper bit, have one leg up, I guess, in that scenario, because those calves are going to get back on the grass quicker. They're going to take the feed a little sooner, so you're not going to lose as much, because a lot of weight you lose right there in that weaning period. They're not gaining weight when you're weaning, because they're stressed out. They're changing diets. They're getting acclimated to the new environment. So the lower the stress, the quicker they get back on feed, the quicker we start making money.
Right, and we're going to hit that topic pretty hard next week. We're going to have Dr. Kevin Schaefer on, talking about some of our adding value to our feeder calves, preconditioning. We've proven both as far as the physical attributes of the health of the calves, and the as far as adding value, that it works. And we're going to really hit that topic next week. JD, let's change directions here a little bit and talk about.
Hey, can I add something before you
go ahead, Brandy. Yeah, go ahead.
When you're talking
Not
about
to change
low
lanes
stress,
yet?
I'm sorry, what?
I said not allowed to change lanes yet.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about the low stress, handling,
Okay.
along with, at weaning time, when we have to work them through those chutes. It's just a good idea to have a low stress handling method
Right.
figured out ahead of time, because that's a lot of stress, just run them through the chutes and giving them vaccines. So if we can do that with minimal yelling and come up with
How does that
with
happen?
a handling facility that's designed to
Right.
make it more efficient, that you're going to have lower stress issues. And
You mean not just a not just a catch pen with 2 gates and an old chute. That doesn't.
I think some thought in the design of your handling facilities will go a long way in keeping your
Right.
weaned calves healthy.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Actually,
That tub will work wonders. You know, just adding
actually,
a tub to your operation.
Mhm.
Right, Brandy, was it actually that you helped us out here because I wanted to maybe switch directions a little bit and talk about low stress handling and some of our facilities that we use to move our animals through. JD, talk maybe a little bit about that as far as the how that's going to affect some of our for BQA our facilities, low stress handling, and maybe even and then we'll move into some of our what the national BQAs were trying to hit home in this transportation training.
Okay, well, Brandy hit the nail on the head. I mean, if you have a good system, you're going to have lower stress handling. I mean, because anybody that's ever worked cows or calves knows that when you get those cattle up, tempers start to fly. Nothing ever goes smoothly, and there's going to be some exciting times eventually here down the road.
Is that
So
what you call it? Exciting?
if you can keep it boring and quiet, that's
There
the
you go.
best thing to do. Quiet and boring and slow. You can never work a cow too slow, but you can work them too fast. So keeping them calm and having a system where they flow through. You know, cattle like to, behavior-wise, like to circle back around to where they come from. That's just a behavioral pattern for cattle. So a lot of these big lanes that you have and you know, these I guess just the alleyways, you know, if they're kind of curved, you know, naturally that kind of works into the behavior. Now, it can, depending on your system, work against you sometimes, depending on your system. A big, you know, tub with a curved alley and a chute at the end, then it straightened up and a chute at the end works. But if you have a mud box, it kind of takes that curvature out of there. So the whole point is corralling those in with solid sides, because knowing where the sides of the facility needs to be solid and where they need to be able to see through the sides are very important. So a mud box is closed in, and then the outlet is where the gate swings around, is almost kind of like a crowding pen, and then their outlet is open where they can say, oh, well, there's my escape route. It works in that behavior of getting that cattle out of there. They think it's their idea. If you can make it think it's their idea and work smoothly with their behavior patterns, it's going to work better. So you get them in the lane through the mud box in. But having those areas, especially on our traditional chute where you have a tub, sides of the tub are solid. Usually the sides of the lane is solid, but the split gates between the alley and the chute are where they can see through, because they can see that next cow because they want to follow the leader. Okay, that's another instinct that cattle have. They like to follow in behind each other. You don't have 6 lanes cow trails going across your farm. Usually if you have a cow trail cutting through the woods, it's one lane. They're right behind each other. They line up and walk behind each other. You know, it's not a cow freeway out there. Okay, so with that said, you know, they like to see that cow go out of the chute, and then you open it and they follow right along. If that slide gate is solid, they don't see that cow leaving out, so that doesn't work in their favor in their behavior. So knowing where to have solid and where to see through is very important. Okay, so once you get that system that works smoothly, you can quietly, hopefully gently, you know, without you know, hitting, because a lot of bruises happens working cattle. You have a stick, okay? Everybody usually picks up a stick or a cow prod. You know, that's to kind of guide them with. Maybe just poke them just a little bit to keep them moving, or to increase your arm width when you're trying to stop them or move them, okay? And that kind of works into the flight zone and the point of balance with these cattle. The flight zone is the zone where you walk into that animal's comfort zone. It's kind of like a comfort zone. So when that cow turns away and moves away from you, you have entered into what is called its flight zone. Okay. So, and that the cow will stop and then turn back and look at you. You're outside its flight zone. So you move that cow forward by going in and out of that flight zone to move it up. Okay. The point of balance is at the shoulder. It's generally, I mean, it can be somewhere in that area, but usually earmarked at the shoulder. Okay. So if you go behind that shoulder towards the rear end of that cow's behavior is going to make it go forward. Okay. If you move towards the head in front of that shoulder, naturally that cow's going to back up. So that's how you can move your cattle in that lane or in the alley or in that chute by using that point of balance, but getting them there by using that flight zone to push them, getting into that flight zone or comfort.
JD, man, I want to maybe talk some more practical stuff. What do I, as a producer, I say, well, John David, I don't have money's pretty tight. I don't have a lot of money to buy a big expensive squeeze chute and put all this fancy dancy handling equipment you're talking about. I've got a barn and I've got a pen outside and I've got a few gates and maybe some posts with some 2x6s nailed to them. I think that we want to, looking at the big picture, recommending that how important these handling facilities are, especially with, I know that one of my friends from Ohio State just put one in a couple years ago and spent a good amount of money. Of course, he's in his 50s now, and he wishes he would have put this in 20 years ago, because thing is, you're like, well, this is a lot, this is $5,000 for a working chute, and then I've got all my alleyways and my gates that I need to put in, and you're thinking, man, this is a lot of work. But think we have to try to train our producers that this is investment, because you're going to think about how many times you're going to be using this to treat sick animals, to bring your animals in for vaccinations a couple times a year, for bringing animals in and having an outlet gate when you're loading animals to take to the sale barn. If you sold animals or marketed animals, how many times you're going to use that facility and try to use that as a selling point of how important it is to have these good working facilities. And not only that, but I think that all of us know stories of people that were injured by animals while they were handling them. They were kicked, they were run over, gates that were on our farm. We've had gates that were, tied up instead of put up properly, and then someone ends up getting hurt. So I think that looking at the big picture, that we want to have, it can be expensive, but handling facilities are a great investment for the farm.
JJ, can I interrupt here?
Yeah, go ahead, Evan.
I'm on that side of things. We built a lot several years ago for hogs and cattle to work those for 4-H projects, and those turned into our handling facility. For us, the best thing we've done is to get those cows and calves used to coming in there for feed and water, so it's not something new. Get them used to coming in there. If you're at the back of the barn, open that barn. They may come in there for shade or get out of the rain some. That makes it a little bit easier for you. And we had 2x10s, I think, on the side of our head gate. We don't have a squeeze chute. We got those on one side, and we took an old gate and put that on the left side. We cut off the end to make it fit. That way, we have a couple of cows that are too large to go all the way through the head chute. So we had to back those two or three cows out and put them out to the side. But you can do that. You can make your own alleyways with your hog panels or your cattle gates instead of having to buy those bigger, more expensive systems.
Right, and JD can add in on this, but you want to make sure, and we've had some of our trainings, even if you use hog panels or you use boards, you can get either thin pieces of plywood or something that you can put across to make those solid, so the animals can't see through. And all they can see is to be going forward instead of seeing what's over to the right or left. But yeah, I mean, there's some low cost ways that we can do that, but it's I would maybe recommend that you guys think about getting a handling chute.
Yep.
It'll be incredible upgrade that you can do so many things with those, especially if you get one that it'll close in the back, you can squeeze with it. Just amazing. What's your thoughts on that, JD?
I think you're absolutely right. I have a really low tech system. I use panels and a head chute. Now, one farm, I have access to some nicer head chutes that I can get out there. We offer some in the districts here and through the extension office in Jackson County, some nicer units, air equipped chutes you can kind of take home with you for a very small maintenance fee. It's just offered to the farmer. So look into that in whatever district or county that you have, see if that's available to you. But I use panels. Usually I like to run my cows. My cows know the drill. You know, they're trained. They know once they get in there, they're going to loop around. They're going to go through the alley, through the head chute, and I don't have many problems with the cows. The calves, you have to train them. Once you get them in there, get them used to it. I like to feed them in the the corral, and I like to let them exit out the head chute sometimes, so that way they get them out there. It's very important, if you can do this, to run them through without minimum pain. You don't want to experience pain the first time, or a lot of pain, the first time you go through that system, because they're going to associate that chute with pain. It's like, I was probably used you as an example, JJ, at one of our trainings. I said, JJ, if I invited you to McDonald's, we went out there to have lunch. Okay. I said, I'm buying lunch. Let's go to McDonald's. And I take you, and while we're there, I stab you. I pierce your ear and castrate you. The next week, I say, JJ, you want to go to McDonald's again with me for lunch? What are you going to say? You're going to say no. Last time you went, you stabbed me, you pierced my ear, and you castrated me. Okay? So you want them to have a good experience going through that chute, maybe a time or so before something traumatic happens to them. That way they don't associate that chute with pain. So, but yeah, you can do a low cost system. I do panels. I have a corral system. I go into a crowd pen with panels, then into the alley, and then straight into the chute. And I probably only have about 500, 600 maybe.
JD, before we move on, we're going to run out of time. Before we move on to transportation, we wanted to hit that a little bit. I might I'm not going to use the same analogy as fast food, but just think, I mean, especially right now, we may head up to the Farm Science Review, and you're going to have all these companies that have these brand new chutes, and you're thinking, wow, man, 30, anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 for these chutes. But also think of it this way: if you have a round baler that says make a 4x4 or 4x5 round baler, will you go out and put a John Deere A or B, or a Farmall, like a Farmall C, or even a Farmall M? Would you put one of those tractors on the front of that baler? I mean, you could, but you'd struggle a lot. You wouldn't be able to do too much. You wouldn't be able to climb hills or put any big bales in there. And you kind of think of that same way with some of our these squeeze chutes for our facilities. You can, for a decent amount of money, we're not going to promote anything. Those air equips are top of the line. The Preferts, that squeeze chute have been around for decades. Get something that will work, and that just consider it an investment, just like if you're a pickup truck or a tractor, and that investment's going to be, I don't know. One of our other guests chime in. How long, once you buy a squeeze chute, how long will it last?
Well, ours have been holding pretty steady for 25 years now, getting to the point where we need to replace it. So you're talking 20, 25 years, especially if it's under shelter and it's maintenance.
You got, even if I say middle, help me out here, JD, anywhere from 3,000 to 8,000, say that's middle of the road, say $4,500 you have to put out for a squeeze chute. You can, if you carry that over 20 years, that's a pretty good investment. Am I right?
It is. And if you get hurt and have to go to the hospital a couple times, those doctors, they're not going to worry about cost when they bill you. They're just going to bill you, and it's going to be a lot higher. So, just looking at the safety aspects too, and a lot of farmers don't have the best health care packages available to them unless you're working outside the farm. So, you can look at it that way too.
Sure. JD, hit a little bit about the maybe not just some generalities here. We got about 10 minutes for transportation as far as our I know that if you can't find anyone to do some custom hauling for you, a lot of our producers out here have stock trailers. Of course, maintenance is something that we can't get away from in life, it seems like, as far as tires, the cleanliness of our trailers and all that. Maybe talk a little bit about some of our BQA for transportation.
Definitely. Some of and as I said, a lot of it comes down to common sense. There's kind of split between the actual transport, loading, and maintenance on these areas. And the way you drive, you kind of want to ease into start and ease into a stop. You don't want to take sharp curves. Those cattle are bouncing around, so you're causing a lot of bruising back there in the trailer. And the times, the length of time, the cattle are staying in pen versus on the trailer, and all that kind of comes in play too. But some of the things we can take home here in our area is mostly everybody hauls their own cattle. So making sure that floor is up to par, going to hold your cattle, because cattle, when you get to the market, if they only have 3 legs, they don't sell very good. So, making sure that that floor can hold the load of your cattle, make sure no feet go through. Very important, make sure there's no nails that they're going to step on, get in there, snags on the side of the trailer. Gashes and cuts are bad when you get to the stockyards as well. And so making sure that it's actually in workable maintenance, functional.
Yeah. What about a checklist, JD?
We do have a checklist.
I think it's available. Talk a little bit about our, tire pressure and as far as your pickup lights and all that stuff. Maybe some things that we let go on the farm sometimes.
Tread. I still don't own many of them, tires on the farm that doesn't have a little dry rot. Make sure that tire is going to actually make it there. Make sure you have tread. You can turn a penny up, stick it in there. And if you can see the top of Lincoln's head, it's time to change your tire. Okay. So, there's little things like that. A spare tire. A lot of people don't think about spare tires. Where's the spare tire when you break down? It's in front of the trailer, right? You're on the side of the road and you got 5 head of cows in there, and you got to maneuver your way in, hope they don't get out, and get the spare tire out the front of the trailer. Throw that thing in the back of the truck. Carry a jack and an impact wrench with you too, just in case, because if you have it, you won't need it. If you don't have it, you're going to need it every time. So make sure you have it, just in case you need it. And, make sure you're in runnable. And I know that's runnable condition, but I know that's sometimes with budgets, the way things go on the farm, you put money where you can, You have a runnable condition and workable trailers though.
Yeah, I agree that the one thing you don't want to be stranded on the side of the road in the heat of summer with a flat tire on your stock trailer. What about we want to keep how often should we clean these trailers out? I know that sometimes that's another thing that we ignore or get behind with other jobs as far as keeping the inside of these trailers cleaned out.
How often should we, or do we? I mean, that's usually the case there. We should wash them out every time. Because one, the worst thing that happens to these stock trailers is they leave the manure on there, and that manure just eat the bottom of them trailers out. It'll rust them out, and it will knock the cross beams right out from under it. So if you wash them out, keep that acidic manure off that metal, it'll last a lot longer for you. And even just biosecurity with these trailers are very important, especially if you have somebody custom hauling you. I would really take a look at those trailers and say, hey, let's look at this biosecurity here, because, they haul 2 or 3 farmers' cattle before you. You don't know what those cows had. You don't know where they're coming from, and you're exposing your cattle to it. You can be introducing a lot of things to your herd. So especially if you got guys custom hauling, make sure they're cleaning these trailers and he's sanitizing them. I would not bat an eye to ask that question.
Yeah, and actually we've come up with this, some situations with this at our 4-H and FFA sale when we're taking care of those animals, sending them to the different processing facilities. Overcrowding can be an issue. If you have a a 16-foot by 6 or 7 foot wide stock trailer, there's only so many, animals that you can get in that. Where we a lot of times will have an issue with our fat hogs, but the same thing with livestock. I can never forget when I was a kid. We got a load of stocker cattle, and the guy had overloaded the trailer. And when they took the animals off, one of the feeder calves had a broken front leg, just for the fact they were packed in there so tight. By the time they got them there, they had one that was injured, and my dad was very upset and gave that gentleman a little advice on how to haul cattle. So, but things like that, overcrowding, unloading and unloading the animals. To not get them excited, and keeping those trailers cleaned out. All the checklist. I think, JD, isn't there something on the BQA website? There's a checklist you can go over.
There is, because we only had so
out.
much time to cover. I mean, there's a lot more information, probably
Right.
twice as much as we didn't cover than we did. So get on that BQA website, go through that. They have some great checklists, talking about cattle prods, trying to limit those, herd health, transport, all those. They have a lot of checklists, a lot of information that we didn't get to on this segment, but I encourage every one of you to take the BQA either online or in person. I know me and JJ's about to start up offering it again. It's been about 3 years. It's good for about 3 years. So especially if you're selling across state lines, and there's also buyers that require it. I know Tyson, I think they went to a BQA certified farms, and that's only going to increase here in the future. So go ahead and get in front of it. A lot of our producers already BQA certified. Just keep your certification up, and go ahead and get ahead of it. And it's great. Even if your markets do not require it, it's great information to use in your farming practices.
Yeah,
John David, I don't remember if you mentioned this at the beginning, but doesn't the beef checkoff help? The beef checkoff dollars, where we pay $1 every time we market an animal, help cover
that's what
cost of beef quality assurance. So that's a real advantage.
What funds this program. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think JD talked about that at the beginning, that the money from that beef checkoff is what funded. This is a producer funded program that was started in. I'll have to look. I think around 1988. Does that sound right, JD?
That's right.
Okay. So this is beef quality assurance is producer driven, and like John David talked about, we've come a long way since we've started. We've had tremendous success, especially with the reduction of injection site lesions and those prime cuts of meat on the back half of the animal. In the rounds, when I was a kid, we grew up, we gave shots back there in the back or the loin or in the round. We've eliminated most of that. We encourage people to give those shots in the front, in the either side of the neck, and that's been a major impact on improving carcass quality. So before we go, since we don't have one of our special guests, I need to pick on Evan. Evan, tell us who your favorite country music artist is.
Favorite country music artist? Have to go to Alan Jackson.
Alan Jackson. Do you have a favorite song of his?
Well, 5 O'Clock Somewhere is always a good one, right?
5 O'Clock Somewhere. Him and Jimmy Buffett, huh?
Yeah.
So I'd have to go with Alan Jackson. I always think of his first big hit about the Chattahoochee.
Oh yeah.
He's had a bunch of them. I think the one about he's married to the lady and doesn't even know her name. I think that was a pretty good one too.
Yep.
Married to a waitress, is that right?
I think.
Alan Jackson. Before we go, I just wanted to remind everybody that next week we'll be talking with Dr. Kevin Schaefer with feeder calf marketing strategies. And then the Friday, September 10th, the week after that, we're talking about agriculture program update with Norm Bailey from the Department of Agriculture. So, JD, I think that there's so much to cover with beef quality assurance, but we talked a little bit about that. What do you think?
We did. It's a 4-hour course, and we only had an hour, so we should have covered about a quarter of it anyway.
So, yeah, and we're going to try to, we will probably have the one for the Mid-Ohio Valley, probably have it at the Jackson County Regional Livestock, at least one of them. We'll have some trainings this fall. Anyone else have anything to add? Brandy or Evan?
Any questions?
I think y'all did a great job and appreciate you.
Yep.
Well, thank y'all for joining in.
I see we have Audra there from Ritchie County. Audra, did we cover it? Did we do good today? Can you hear us? No. But yeah, I think that we covered a lot. I'm looking forward to talking to Kevin next week. Everyone's going to be to weaning calves, and it'll be a lot of good information about adding value to our feeder calves here in West Virginia. JD, you want to sign us off?
Yeah, I'll sign us off. Thank y'all for joining in for the Mountaineer Farm Talk. And until next time, we'll see you around the ridge.
Salute.